or for colleagues who have joined to go back over any area of advice we covered today. So, good evening. I'm Cleland Snedden, I'm the returning officer, and I'd like to welcome you to this poll and count awareness session for the UK Parliamentary By-Election to be held on Thursday the 5th of October for the Rutherglen and Hamilton West constituency. So thank you for joining. I hope you'll find the session useful, but I'd also like to introduce some additional colleagues. My Deputy Returning Officer, Gordon Stewart, Paul Manning, who's with us as well, my colleague Tracy O'Hara from the election team, Stuart MacLeod, who's acting as security manager for this election, and we've also been joined by Sergeant Stevie Conn and Sergeant Kevin Miller from Police Scotland. We'll hear from them later on. You should have, prior to tonight, have received a copy of the information provided at the previous awareness session, and that's both in the Word format and in the recorded MS Teams format. And again, a note of tonight's session will be prepared and sent to you after this session, and in due course, a link to the recorded presentation will also be available on the SLC website. So just to go over the aims of tonight's session, we will look to provide you with an update on postal vote arrangements. We'll give you more detailed information on the polling day and the count arrangements, provide an opportunity obviously for you to ask questions, and please feel free to ask questions at any point as we go through the agenda, just by using the MS Teams hand icon to indicate that you want to ask a question, and we'll try to bring you in at that point. I'll also stop at natural break points as we go through the presentation, and I'll provide an opportunity for any questions that arise section by section. And then finally, we'll provide some information in relation to the post by-election arrangements. So that's our agenda for tonight. So if colleagues are okay, I'll start with just running back through the postal vote arrangements. So for the issue of postal votes, they were issued on Wednesday, the 20th of September 2023, and the majority of those will have landed on doorsteps the following day or the days thereafter. A further mailing will be sent to the remaining postal voters on Tuesday, the 26th of September 2023. And anyone who spoils or loses their postal pack can, of course, receive a reissue pack by contacting the election office up until 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 5th of October. So we ran through at the previous session the opening procedure. I'm just going to run back through those just as a reminder. So the postal vote opening process has been conducted in the banqueting hall in council offices on Armada Street in Hamilton. Stage 1A opening commences on Tuesday the 26th of September today, and that's stage 1A involving the opening of the outer envelopes to check receipt of appropriate documents and to record the totals received. Full opening commences on Monday the 2nd of October at 9:30. So that involves stage 1B, which is the scanning of the postal vote statements and the adjudication of the personal identifiers. For stage 2A, we will open envelope A, so that's the ballot paper envelope, to check receipt of both ballot papers and record the totals. And then finally, in stage 2B, that involves the scan of the back of the ballot papers. So these stages allow us, following the close of poll, to ensure that all postal votes will be processed and are ready for verification at the count on Thursday, the 5th of October. We also undertake postal vote sweeps, so arrangements are in place to ensure that all postal votes received at the polling stations on polling day are delivered to the postal votes team during the day and at close of poll. Final postal votes received from the Royal Mail will be delivered to the postal votes team at 9:45 on polling day. The remainder of which will have been handed into the polling stations during the day of the poll, they'll also be prepared and dealt with at some point after 10 p.m. on the count day. And then finally, postal vote statistics. There have been a total of 15,337 postal votes issued, and this morning we had 340 already returned. We'll be able to update that on a daily basis. So can I just stop after that information on the postal votes, see if there's any queries? Okay, not seeing any hands, so I'll move on to the arrangements for polling day. First of all, the election office, that will be open from 6 a.m. and can be contacted on 01698 455 745 for any inquiries. In relation to the setup of the polling places, that setup will take place on Wednesday, the 4th of October 2023, so that it's ready for the staff arriving on the polling day the following day. Polling staff will arrive at 6:30 AM to complete their setup and in good time to receive voters commencing 7 AM. There will be one presiding officer and one polling clerk on duty at each polling station. And in stations with 4 or more polling places, there will be an information officer. A polling station inspector will visit the polling places to support poll staff and the election office team and assist throughout the course of the day. I think we are looking at 3, possibly 4 inspectors for this election. And standby polling staff have been recruited to work at short notice if required, if there's any late call-offs. In relation to entry to the polling place, just a reminder, there will be a notice displayed at the entrance to each polling place to advise on voter turnout, and that will be updated approximately every 2 hours. Sorry, I'm getting a wee bit of feedback if somebody's got their mic unmuted. Apologies for that. In relation to polling day issues, the election office will be open from 6 AM, as we said, and any issues regarding polling places or polling staff should be brought to the attention of the election team as soon as possible. They can be contacted on 01698 455 745 again. The election team will bring any issues to my attention as returning officer as appropriate. In relation to the polling places, there's been a couple of changes to polling places for this constituency as follows. So due to the closure of Springwells Community Centre, voters in that area will vote at Auchenwraith Primary School. And voters who previously voted in Montrose House will now vote in the council offices in Almada Street in Hamilton. So I'm going to stop again, just if there's any queries in relation to that section. Okay, again, not seeing any hands, so that's helpful. I'll move on to campaigning on polling day. So I mentioned at the previous session, but I'll summarise the following arrangements. The display of advertisements and publicity materials are not permitted. Campaigning and leafleting is not permitted within the curtilage of the polling place. And rosettes with candidate or party details are permitted to be worn. However, if someone's in the polling station for a prolonged period of time, for example, for the purposes of detecting personation, they should remove the rosette. Photography, as normal, there should be no photographs taken within the polling station. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I wonder if colleagues can ensure they're muted. Okay, I'll try that again. Gary, I wonder if you could mute your microphone. I think I'm just getting a bit of feedback from you. Thank you. So in relation to passes, candidates and agents must show their pass should they wish to enter the polling station. And I'll now cover the close of poll arrangements. At 10 PM, the priority for presiding officers is to conclude voting arrangements, seal the ballot box, and complete the ballot paper account. The polling clerk will provide support with the completion of the remaining statutory documents and with clearing up the poll stationery. If you wish to add a seal to the ballot box, you can do so at 10 PM. It is helpful to allow polling staff the space and the opportunity to complete their duties prior to assisting you with any questions you may have. And when all tasks are complete, all polling items will then be uplifted by the Council's Housing and Technical Resources team for delivery to the count venue. And I'll just run through what takes place at 10 PM. So first of all, the postal vote opening will be concluded and the ballot boxes will be taken to the count venue ready for the count procedures. There will be a check of unused ballot papers and the ballot paper accounts, and that information will be recorded and checked against the verification sheet. And then the count commences with the opening of postal votes and the polling station ballot boxes. So again, I'll just stop and check if there's any comments or questions before I move on. Not seeing any, so I'll move on to the count arrangements. So entry to the count is strictly by pass only. Can I remind you that the deadline for passes is this Thursday? I've extended it to this Thursday. I'll come back to that in a second. These will be issued at the start of next week. Please wear your lanyard with pass and be ready to hand in your additional printed pass to record your arrival. You should also have photographic ID for checking when you arrive at the count. I mentioned previously that my intent is to safely maximise the number of agents that we can offer to the count. By these arrangements, we are looking to ensure compliance with capacity limits advised by building standards colleagues, but trying to ensure the maximum allocation of passes are issued. Now, our request was for confirmation of names so that we could prepare the passes for issue. As at earlier this afternoon, and I'll just check in with my colleagues in a second, we had only received responses from the Liberal Democrat Party, from the Labour Party, and from Reform UK. So all other candidates, other agents, I'm awaiting confirmation of names so that we can get the passes put in place. So I've extended that deadline through to the end of the day on Thursday this week. But I would remind colleagues that only those who have been allocated a pass will be able to be permitted access to the account. Andrea, can I bring you in just now, please?
Yeah, thanks, Cleland. Just our stuff ready to go. I just wondered, can this be scanned and emailed, or do I have to deliver it? I see Tracy nodding.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, I mean, we'll make this as easy as possible, Andrea, just so that you don't physically need to come down with that. If you can send it on to us, that would be great.
The other question, just when it's been up at the John Wright Sports Centre, we've needed parking passes. I take it we don't need parking passes this time. We'll be able to use the car parking at HQ. Yeah.
And again, for those not familiar with the building, there's a very large car park to the rear of the building. There's also car parking adjacent across the road and adjacent to the main car park. There's some limited car parking on Beckford Street, and there's some designated disabled parking spaces there as well. But yes, Andrea, and that's a helpful prompt actually to be able to share that information. So we await the nominations from candidates and agents in respect of their passes. I've also made a number of returning officer guest passes available, and again, I'm looking to the parties to respond to myself if they wish to take up any of those passes. I had confirmation from the Conservatives, from the Liberal Democrats, from Labour. I've now got a response from the Green Party, and I'm still waiting on a response from the SNP in relation to the returning officer guest passes. So if there's any other requests for guest passes, if they could please be submitted to me, as again, no later than Thursday of this week. Okay, so I'll move on to police arrangements. I'd like to make you aware that we've been informed there is no intelligence to suggest that the by-election itself should be a specific target, and Police Scotland have provided the reassurance that they will provide a visible presence at key sites during polling day, and at the count they will be present at the count as well. Before going on to a couple of our own internal security arrangements, can I maybe just check in with Stevie and Kevin? Is there anything additional from Police Scotland you'd like to advise candidates and agents?
Yeah, thanks, Cleland. Just a couple of things that I'll probably touch on, and probably just by way of introduction. Yeah, Stevie Collins was recently, yesterday, I took over the role of Community Policing Inspector at Rutherglen and Cambuslang. My previous role was in Operational Support and Service Delivery at the headquarters in Lanarkshire Division at Motherwell, and I was the election spock. Kevin and I have now swapped roles, so we've obviously both got an interest in the election itself. So yeah, our role in the lead up to elections is to work in partnership to deliver a safe, fair and inclusive election in accordance with the law. The national threat level remains substantial and attack is likely, and we should all remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. I must stress, as Cleland has just mentioned, there is no current intelligence to suggest a specific threat in relation to the election or to any candidate standing, and this will be continually monitored. A robust police plan will be in place to provide reassurance and to deal with any acts of criminality. Police resources have been dedicated to the by-election and the count, and the focus of our operation on the day will be to keep people safe and to maintain order inside and directly outside polling places and to the count venue. On that note, I would like to take the opportunity to remind candidates to follow the expected code of conduct, and that's whether in the virtual space or at the polling stations, places, and even the count venue itself. Police Scotland will challenge any behaviour that falls below these standards and to deal with it robustly. Again, I would like to reaffirm that if you have any concerns relating to protective security matters prior to, during or post-election, then please don't hesitate to speak to the office on site or contact your local police by dialing 101. In addition, if you feel that an incident necessitates an immediate police response, then please contact us by calling 999. On the day itself, on Thursday the 5th of October, I'll be the early shift supervisor on duty relating to election matters, and Chief Inspector Stevie McGovern, who's the local area commander for East Kilbride, Rutherglen and Cambuslang, will be late shift. And that's really everything from myself, Cleland. Thanks.
Thanks, Stevie. So Stephen McGovern obviously lost the toss for the various shifts. Thanks very much, and it's really helpful reassurance. So no specific indication of a particular threat to this election, but we would ask people to be vigilant and mindful in relation to conduct and safety. So I said we would turn to some of the internal arrangements. So in addition, in line with other public events, checks may be required for bags and bulky jackets for MD attending the count. To avoid such checks and speed up entry, if you can, you should consider not bringing a bag to the count if possible. Again, these checks are there just to provide reassurance in relation to the event, but there is no specific threat that we're aware of either nationally or locally. However, be vigilant, please, and in and around the count, and bring to the attention of any of the count team any issues or any concerns that you might have. So before every by-election, we give details of procedures which should be followed if there's a need to evacuate the count centre. You will find these in the count information pack issued to all attendees at the count, and that'll be under the emergency arrangements section. You should be aware if this situation arises, the mobile phone number you've provided us at the point of nomination will be used to text you to advise of the count recommencing once we can reoccupy the count centre safely. Andrea was mind reading, so I was just going to go on to car parking passes. So there's no reserved parking for this event. Parking is available in Beckford Street and outside Montrose House, as well as the large car park to the rear of the building. And there's disabled parking spaces in Beckford Street. Those attending the count should be aware that we've got some hospitality arrangements in place for those attending. So there'll be tea, coffee, biscuits, etc. And that'll be provided with candidates and agents on the day. A couple of other things round about the count centre. In relation to smoking, there'll be no smoking in the grounds of the count venue, and instead smokers will be expected to exit the site, and avoid gathering in front of the building or in the curtilage of the site. In terms of mobile phones, I appreciate candidates and agents may have mobile phones in use. I would expect you will. I would ask if you're using your mobile phone that you stay away from the count workstations. Obviously, I'm conscious that mobiles nowadays have the capability of taking photographs, etc. And if you are using your phone away from the count desk, it avoids any embarrassment or inconvenience for everyone if we needed to challenge that. In relation to Wi-Fi at the count venue, that will be available and throughout the count venue on the count day of Thursday the 5th of October. And should you wish to use the Wi-Fi, you'll be able to connect your device by navigating to the apps on your device, selecting Wi-Fi from the menu, selecting the option for elections, and then there's a password which we'll share on the day. You'll be able to connect to the SLC guest Wi-Fi. The username and password will be on the front of the count information pack just for ease, so that's in place. Just as mentioned, photography is not permitted in or around the count area. And finally, in your pack, you will find a copy of the layout plan for the count venue, and the copy of plan. You'll be able to see the arrangements around the count procedures, which we'll go into in a second. So with that information in relation to the count venue, can I check in if there's any other comments or queries? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'll move on to the count procedures themselves. So there will be 3 mini count sections, and you'll see these in your layout plan. The allocation of ballot boxes to each mini count section is based on the estimated time of arrival of boxes at the count, and this is to ensure an even spread across each of the sections, and that's based on the potential number of votes on the electorate and consideration of the previous experience of percentage turnouts, etc. In your count information pack, there's information about the mini count, and it will show you the ballot boxes which are apportioned to each mini count section in the mini count section order. Copies of this information is also available tonight in the ballot box number order and by polling station in alphabetical order for each constituency, so you can see it in different formats. The allocation of the boxes, as described, will ensure a consistent flow and that there are no breaks in the count, so we'll keep the engine running for each of the mini counts. In terms of the count layout plan, that will show you the physical layout on the night, and it will also detail what will be happening in each of the areas. So moving to the count procedures and the verification of the ballot papers, firstly, we will verify the total number of ballots counted at each counting station, and we'll do that by checking unused ballot papers and then checking off the used ballot papers so that we have a kind of balance. Ballot papers themselves are then counted for each box, and these are counted into bundles of 50. On completion of that, we check against the ballot paper account to ensure that the total number of ballot papers on the table squares with what should be there from our verification of the unused ballot papers. And then finally, we following the completion of the verification, announcements will be made to confirm that verification is complete. So there'll be a series of announcements throughout the night to keep those who are in attendance aware of us moving from stage to stage. The counting of the ballot papers themselves is in two stages. So the first stage is to sort the ballot papers into votes for each candidate, and this will be a two-stage process. The first sort will sort candidates into the top 7 candidates and then the bottom 7 candidates. Papers will then be taken in and reissued to sort into votes for each candidate. The tables will be allocated to count specific candidates' votes, and the ballot papers will be counted into bundles of 50. Flipboards will indicate which votes are being counted at which tables, and we will have clear signage on each table so you'll be able to see what is being counted at any time. If you're unclear at all, please ask one of the information officers who are going to be available to you on the night. And then the counted ballot papers will be placed in the trays on the back tables. Moving to the doubtful ballot papers, I would draw your attention to the Electoral Commission placemat and booklet, and that details a series of case law based examples of how doubtful ballots can be adjudicated. Decisions taken by myself, my Deputy Returning Officers appointed for this purpose, and my count team will be based on the Electoral Commission's guidance and that placemat. Please take some time to make yourself aware of the contents of the Electoral Commission placemat, as this will be used to adjudicate on ballots, and a copy of the Electoral Commission's placemat is within your count information pack. Table supervisors will adjudicate at the table to ensure they include accepted votes into the account. Any remaining doubtful ballot papers will be passed to the mini count supervisor and then for the attention of the constituency count manager and ultimately for my attention. Returning officer adjudication of remaining doubtful ballot papers will be intimated when it's commencing, and adjudications will be announced to candidates and election agents. It's my practice to do an audible adjudication, so you will hear clearly what my decision is on each doubtful ballot paper. So thereafter, ballot papers will be accepted and included into the count or rejected and marked accordingly. In relation to doubtful ballots, the Electoral Commission's placemat provides the case law examples of some of the doubtful ballot papers and how these will be adjudicated. And as I said, it would be helpful if you take some time to familiarise yourself with that case law, as it saves a bit of time to seek an explanation at the actual count. Yeah, I'm just checking if there's any comments or queries on that section before I move on to the declaration. Okay, not seeing any hands, so thanks again. So I'll move on to the arrangements for the declaration of results. So firstly, for the preliminary constituency results, I will discuss these with candidates and election agents. I will have an announcement and probably draw candidates and their election agents over to the side of the stage where I will confirm the outcome. Then I'll move to the declaration of the result. Once I've shared the outcome with you, please try to respect the process by waiting until the formal declaration is made before signalling to your supporters. If you request a recount, I would need to consider the reasonableness of this request and the grounds for that request. And as I mentioned previously, if there's anything that you're unhappy with or anything you've seen throughout the process of the count which concerns you, please bring it to my attention there and then, rather than waiting to the point at which I'm sharing the outcome of the poll with you. Please don't wait till the end of the night, but there are also staff available to you in terms of our information officers or some of the senior staff who are participating in the count to draw that to our attention. The declaration of the result will be in the same order as detailed on the ballot paper, and candidates only on the stage unless the candidate requires a support on the grounds of disability. In relation to speeches, only the winning candidate is invited to make a speech. Okay, and I'll just check in if there's any queries in relation to those arrangements. Okay, thanks, and I'll move on then to the post-by-election information. So first of all, the return of deposits. Deposits will be returned to those candidates who gain more than 5% of the total valid votes cast in the constituency. These deposits will be returned either by credit or debit card transfer, or for those who paid by cash, they'll be returned by cheque immediately after the count. Lost deposits will be passed to the Cabinet Office in the UK Government. In relation to marked registers, including the postal voters marked registers, they'll be available for viewing from Monday the 9th of October 2023, and paper and electronic copies will be available as soon as possible after that date. Please contact the election office directly if you would like to request a copy of the marked registers. The limits in relation to by-election expenses. So the Electoral Commission website provides you with guidance and related forms. If you require assistance, you can contact the Electoral Commission in Edinburgh. Their contact details are contained in the notes of this meeting, which you will receive as soon as possible after the conclusion of this session. For the purposes of by-election expenses, the limit on expenses was £100,000. The deadline for submitting returns is Friday the 10th of November 2023, assuming a declaration of the result is made on Friday the 6th of October 2023. Please return them to the Election Office, 21 Beckford Street, Hamilton, ML3 0BT. Okay, and again, I'll stop at that section just to check if there's any comments or queries. Okay, so more broadly, if there's any comments or queries from those attending regarding the poll or the count procedures that we haven't covered today, can I just check if anybody's got any other queries for us? I'm not seeing hands again, thank you. My intention, as I'd mentioned previously, is to deliver an accurate and safe by-election, and I do look for the cooperation of all candidates, agents and their supporters to help me do that in line with procedures and legal requirements. So that brings tonight's session to a close, but I would encourage you to contact us if there's any questions at any time you have to ensure you're clear on the arrangements in place so far. And there are no stupid questions, so please, we would rather you contact us just to check something if you're uncertain. So many thanks for your attendance tonight. A note of this session together with a link to the recorded presentation will be sent to you as soon as possible after this session. And thanks very much for coming along tonight.
Thanks, Cleland. Thanks. Bye.